Hi, I'm Kyle Nelson with USDA NASS Northern Plains Regional Field Office. In this presentation, I want to take some time to look at the CAPI tables for ARMS 2. In 2020, NASS started utilizing the CAPI instrument for ARMS 2. While we hope that everything runs smoothly during data collection, it's possible there will be a few bugs or flaws. If we run into problems, it is important to keep a backup copy of the form for resolving any problems or concerns which may arise. Because of this, it might be a good idea to record all data collected in interviews with respondents on paper before transcribing it onto the iPad. Our primary objective here is to help you, the enumerator, feel more comfortable in navigating in and around CAPI when it comes to product lookups, working with the tables, and less about the content of the survey itself, which is covered in other videos. The demonstration you're about to watch will follow the 2021 commodities since there's been little change with the CAPI instrument since then. With that, I'm going to turn over to John Mears to walk through the CAPI demonstration. Take it away, John.
Now for a couple of disclaimers. The CAPI demonstration you are about to see was recorded on a laptop. While the CAPI instrument should behave similarly on a laptop as it does to an iPad, its appearance may be a little different at times. Also, our headquarters has spent countless hours making improvements to how ARMS 2 functions in CAPI. It is possible that other improvements, enhancements, or changes to the layout of the instrument may take place before the final CAPI instrument is in production. Finally, when viewing the demonstration, a yellow circle has been added to make it easier to follow where you as an enumerator would be navigating the instrument. A red bullseye will appear indicating throughout where an item was tapped or selected. Section C is the nutrient and fertilizer application section. So let's suppose that we were applying commercial nutrients. This question here, we need to make sure that we understand clearly. It says how many commercial nutrient or fertilizer applications were made to the selected field for the 2021 crop. The intention here is not to look at how many different fertilizers were applied, but how many times we actually went across the field with heavy equipment to conduct fertilizing applications. So if you are using fertilizer blends, say you're mixing two fertilizers together in the same tank mix, you might call that only one fertilizer application. So I'm going to say that there were 3 fertilizer applications in this case. I'll go to my next. And what you're going to notice here is that there's going to be a table with up to 10 lines showing. This is because we realize that just because there were 3 fertilizer applications made, that does not necessarily mean that there are only going to be 3 lines to this table. There might be 5 lines. Now, I want to show a few different ways that we can enter the fertilizer information into the instrument. So let's say we were doing muriate of potash, which would be 0060. I can either leave this cell blank. So if I hit 0, and I can then put here, I can 0, it's going to be a 60, and put a 0, or you can leave those values blank. And I'll say we put 120 pounds per acre. So that's one way. If you know what the fertilizer formulation here is as far as your nitrogen, your phosphorus, your potassium, and your sulfur, you can enter those numbers directly. If the operator gives you the name of a commercial fertilizer, we can look that information up. If you click on this little blue menu here, it's going to give you various possibilities. It says I can only see the first 10. So of course we can scroll down through the list to find what we're looking for. Or alternatively, you could put the name of the product into the search tool And then that's going to pick up everything. So I typed in the word urea, and it gave me everything with a urea in it. Now, there's one thing we need to warn you about if you were to use this lookup tool to insert fertilizers. Notice that for most of these products, we have ranges given. The system downstream that CAPI is going to export the data to cannot handle the ranges. So if I was to just select urea, I don't want to leave that with a 45-46. I want to change this, so I'm going to delete this information, just type that in with a 46. Of course, if you have the percentages for each commodity, then that's going to be better off in some ways. So let's say I used 200 pounds per acre of urea. And then notice over here, I'm going to have to slide over to get this information here. When was this applied? All right, let's say that this one was done in the spring before seeding and that this was applied after seeding. How is it applied? We'll do this one as broadcast without incorporation. We'll put this one as foliar directed spray. How many acres were treated? We'll say all of them were 25 acres. And then this crop code on the right, don't worry about that. Now, I did say that we had 3 applications. For time consideration, I'm not going to go through everything here. But again, if you were to look things up, let's say I put on monoammonium phosphate, this would be MAP. If I type in MAP, again, we see that it comes straight up. I'm going to have to accept some of the ranges here when I go to select it, but then I'm going to have to update this. So let's say I make that now, how about a 12? And let's make this a 50. Let's change that. And again, we'll do the same thing. I'll put 100 pounds. We'll put it after seeding, the foliar directed. And then we'll say it was done to all 25 acres. One last thing I want to discuss before we leave this table is that, again, a lot of these fields are sortable. So if you're looking at something that has a high nitrogen concentration or a low nitrogen concentration, then we can have that column sorted there. Or if we're looking for primarily the big sulfur products, we can sort column that way. Or we can sort on the name. And if we need to, we can look at, let's say, 50 entries so I can get a bigger table to work with here. All right, let's move on to the next big section. In section D, it's asking first, okay, did you apply any herbicides, insecticides, fungicides, or other biocontrols or pesticides to the field in 2021? I'm going to say yes. How many products were applied? This one is going to tell the CAPI system how many lines we need to make available. So I will just say we have, let's say I have 4 lines. And I'll hit next. All right, so we've said that we have 4 chemical products that were applied here. Just like before, what I could do is click on this little blue screen here, and I could type in the first one. Let's say that my first product was Liberty 280. Liberty. And as I type in the word Liberty, it's showing me all the product names that have the word Liberty. I have a Liberty 280 SL herbicide. I'm going to select that one. And it already knows that it's a liquid, which is a good thing. We'll say this is not part of a tank mix here, that I put it on here before planting. And it wants to know how much was applied. I'm going to say this is 32 liquid ounces. And I have to scroll over in order to get some of those things here. I don't need to get the total amount because this is an either or question, but in terms of entering the code, I'll say that that was 32 liquid ounces. Now I'll go back to my second product. My second product I have is atrazine. And I'm going to have to go in here and I'll type in atrazine. Now, of course, I'm not given the full information about this particular atrazine, so maybe I need to look up a little bit more closely to see which version of atrazine this is going to be. So for all intents and purposes, let's just say that this is atrazine 4L. I'm going to pick this one here. And I'm going to say that this was part of a tank mix, that line 2 and line 3 are part of a tank mix. It was applied after planting. And we're going to say that I put in 1 quart. Now, the third product that's on here is part of the tank mix with atrazine, is a product called Pounce 3.2 EC. It is a permethrin-based product. I'm going to go to my little blue here, and I'm going to try typing the word Pounce. And it says that there's nothing found. It hasn't heard of something called Pounce. Well, what I can do, I'll have to cancel this. I'm going to have to type in the word Pounce. I'll say, we'll type it as 3.2. It says EC. I don't know the product code, obviously, because it's not in the respondent booklet and it's not listed as something that I can have in my pull down. According to my notes here, it is a liquid, so I will change this. I'll type that as a liquid. And I do know it was part of the tank mix, so we'll put that in as a 2. And it's going to be after planting. And the amount that was put down was 6 ounces per acre. My last product is something called Impacts. And again, I can either type it in or I will just do the look, see if we can find Impacts this time. So I've got IMPA. Hey, there it is, Impacts herbicide. I can hit select and we've got it there. It says that it's a liquid. It is not part of any tank mix. I'm putting it on after planting. And I'm going to say this is 3/4 of an ounce, 0.75. And then we're going to change this to say liquid ounces. Now, as I said before, this table works very much like the fertilizer table. We can sort by product code. We can sort by the classes. We can sort by the EPA number if that's one thing you have. Or we can sort by the product name. And again, we can have this show upwards of 100 products if that is going to be particularly helpful for you. Of course, that's going to pull a lot of things up here. Might save you some time from having to look everything up in the respondent booklet. Of course, as we noted before, Pounce is not in the respondent booklet. So this is where we would want to enter the information about Pounce into the line number down here. So we're going to say line 3. This is going to be an insecticide. And you can put the letter I, you can just put insect, you can put the whole word. I do have an EPA number for this. The EPA number for this is 279-3014. And this was purchased as a liquid. And since I already know the EPA number, I'm not going to worry about where it was purchased from. This information will be able to allow the regional field office to look up this particular product, and then we can hopefully associate a product code with it. Now, the questions that would normally be on the opposite page on paper are on a second screen in CAPI. So these are the 4 chemicals carried over from one page to the next. It's asked, how was the product applied? So I'm going to say this broadcast without incorporation. And I'm going to say the impacts was foliar directed spray. How many acres? I'm going to go ahead and put in that this was all 25 acres that things were applied to. Then the next one, how many times was this applied? We'll just assume that each of these right now is done once. Who were these made by? Well, let's say that they were all made by the operator or partner or family member. All right, so we have come to the end of everything that I was hoping to show you here today. I hope you have found some of this information useful and helpful as you begin to focus on data collection efforts for ARMS 2 for this year. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you all again very soon.